Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. And I apologize, I don't have the best lighting where I live, but my name is Randy Chan, and I'm the Director of Channel Marketing at HTP Books, and HTP stands for Harlequin Trade Publishing. So usually when we have events with the Gloss, we're always talking about upcoming books that aren't yet published. But because it's the holiday season, we want to highlight the best books that will make perfect gifts for the book lovers on your shopping list. If you have teens in your life, we have book recommendations for them. If you have avid readers who only want books that are trending, we have the right recommendations. And even for the nonfiction lover on your list, we have memoirs and books on history to recommend tonight. And then as always, the very people we have recommending these books are authors and my colleagues, who are the people who edit, sell, and market these books. And then finally, if you are a Colleen Hoover fan, and let's face it, there are hundreds and thousands of Colleen Hoover fans out there, then we have a special preview of Colleen Hoover's new book, which is coming out in February. So why don't we get down to business? What better person to recommend books than a very well-read author herself? So I'm going to introduce Susan Lee. And Susan is a born storyteller. She writes lighthearted, quirky novels about the oftentimes hilarious human condition and about love. She currently lives in Southern California, and her novel Soulmates came out earlier this year. And Soulmates has been named one of the best young adult books of 2022 by Pop Sugar. It has been universally critically acclaimed. And it's about a young woman named Hannah Cho, whose former best friend returns into her life. He's an actor in a K-drama, a Korean drama, and this novel is about romance and about the Korean American identity. Please welcome Susan Lee. Hey, Susan.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Lee, as Randy just introduced. My debut novel came out this September called Soulmates. It's a young adult romantic comedy. Here's, oh, I don't know if this will work. Maybe I put it over my face. But Randy showed the cover. It is about two Korean American teens who were best friends growing up. Unexpectedly have a falling out, and a few years later they're reconnected to complete an epic summer bucket list. It's a story about friendship and family and forgiveness, first love, and it's a lot of fun. So I would love it if you guys picked it up if you haven't read it yet. It's a quick read and super romantic for your teen and teen to adult readers. So I am here today, though, to recommend some young adult books. I am a romance reader through and through. So though I know a lot of people read a lot of young adult fantasy, which I also think is wonderful. But I'm going to come to you today with some young adult romance picks, or young adult with romantic elements picks that I think would be great for gift giving. What I thought I'd do is share a couple of the tropes that belong to my book and then give a sister book to that same trope. So Soulmates includes childhood friends to enemies to lovers. It also includes celebrity romance, and it has some identity, a storyline about identity and kind of this new global phenomenon, which in Korea we call the Hallyu, which is this translates to the word wave. It's this Korean wave, the global phenomenon of things like BTS and K-dramas, crash landing on you, those kinds of things, and what makes them so popular. So it also touches on kind of that whole Korean cultural aspect. So for childhood friends to enemies to lovers, hold on, I'm going to pick up the cover. For childhood friends to enemies to lovers, the sister book is, oh, I see this is not going to work. Let me take off my blur so you guys can see this. There we go. Sorry. It's Some Mistakes Were Made by Kristen Dwyer. Some Mistakes Were Made, I believe, is the darker, edgier, emo sister to Soulmates. It is a story about found family and a falling out. And then what ultimately comes back to a reconciliation and coming back to your first love. It deals with a lot of personal trauma for young people, and how young people, when we were young, dealing with trauma causes us to react in ways that hurt those that are closest to us. It is an emotionally heavy book, but at the end, so hopeful, and does end with happily ever after. It's beautifully written, and it's the type of book that as you read it, and when you're done, you're thinking about it, you just continue to think about it, and it stays with you for a really long time. So some mistakes were made by Kristen Dwyer. It is upper YA. Just to note, there is some content that might not be appropriate for younger readers, but for your upper YA readers, it is really, and your adult reader, crossover readers, it is a wonderful book. I can't recommend it enough. The next trope for soulmates is celebrity romance. As Randy mentioned when he was talking about the book, one of the characters in Soulmates is a K-drama star. He was this geeky kid growing up, and he comes back as one of the hottest K-drama stars in Korea. So the companion book to that is Kiss and Tell by Adib Khorram. Kiss and Tell is also a celebrity romance. It is about, I think it would be Soulmate's best friend, queer best friend. So it is about a boy band called Kiss and Tell. And one of the members of the boy band recently goes through a really hurtful and public breakup. And the story is all about growing up in the spotlight, what fame, the pressures of fame, and how to be, in this book particularly, the right kind of queer in the eyes of those gatekeepers. And so it is really beautifully written. It's super energetic, fast-paced. It has a really cool format where it has like social media on there, and different kinds of media that, different kinds of content, and then the story that as the author writes it. It's funny, it's romantic, and it's wonderfully hopeful coming of age. So Kiss and Tell by Adib Khorram. And then finally, one of my favorite books of the year, written by a Korean author that I just love and respect, is called, pull this one up, The Red Palace by June Her. If Soulmates is a story about being Korean in this day and age, The Red Palace is a story about being Korean in the past of the Joseon dynasty, in the days of Korea. June Her is really one of the most talented historical YA writers out there. And as a Korean writer and reader, I just love how with so much thoughtfulness and care she takes in writing her Korean historical books. The Red Palace is a book about a young nurse who is caught up in a mystery of some murders that are happening in the palace, and the person who was being accused is her mentor. So she tries to find out who's really the culprit of these murders. And there is a very cute young police officer or security person that comes into the mix. It's a wonderfully atmospheric thriller with incredible Korean history intertwined in with a wonderfully swoony romantic arc. So that is The Red Palace by June Her. And those are the three books that I would love to recommend. And lastly, the one last trope that I wanted to kind of pitch Soulmates with is my best friend used to be geeky, but now has had a massive glow up, and oh my God, he's hot now. So if you love books like that, which kind of has been like my crack lately, then I would love to recommend Soulmates for your holiday reading and gift giving as well. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Susan. That was awesome. I like how you tied the books in with Soulmates. And by the way, I did read Adib Khorram's this summer. It was called Darius the Great is Not Okay. That I loved it.
So good. I will say that Kiss and Tell is very different when it comes to voice and the kind of story, but you can tell that this author he's just so talented and took great care in it. So if you're a fan of Adib's Darius the Great, you will be a fan just because he is that talented of a writer in Kiss and Tell.
It's It's now on my list, Susan. Thank you. And thank you again. By the way, if you have a busy schedule and you need to drop off, that's totally fine. By all means, we'd love for you to stay, but I know it's a busy time of year. So thank you again, Susan. And then now what we have is a special video presentation from the author Bianca Marais. And Bianca is not a stranger to the gloss because, as you know, her book, The Witches of Moonshine Manor, is this month's Gloss Global Book Club pick. So you're all going to be meeting her later in the month anyway. The author, Ann Patchett, calls Bianca Marais a genius. Bianca co-hosts a podcast called The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. And in 2021, she won the Excellence in Teaching Award for Creative Writing at the University of Toronto's School of Continuing Studies. The Witches of Moonshine Manor has been called a cross between Hocus Pocus and the Golden Girls. It's about a coven of modern day witches determined to save their home and themselves. And Bianca is going to present her book recommendations for the season.
Okay, I'll just share that. Just 1 second.
Thanks, Pam.
It's such a joy to get to chat with you today. I'm really honored to be here. And, you know, I, like you, am excited about books. Before I became an author, I was a reader, and I say I'm first and foremost a reader. Give me a good story, well told, and I get extremely, extremely excited about it. So get to chat with you about books is a huge bonus. So here's the thing about me. I like big books, and I cannot lie. I know that there are people out there, when confronted with a chunkster of a book, they kind of get nervous. They freak out a little bit. They feel like it's a daunting task to get through such a big book. But I just see value for money. It's like 3 average size books for the price of 1. And there's nothing worse when you really, really are loving a book and you're getting near the end of it and you're like, oh, the story is going to end. And when it's a chunkster of a book, that takes so much longer to get to that, oh, the story is going to end moment. Another reason why I love big books. So the 3 books that I'm going to be discussing today, 2 of them are chunksters, 1 not so much. And I will be throwing in some other references to other books because I can't just stick with 2. I'm really, really sorry. So the first book I'm going to begin with is from one of my very, very favorite authors. Here we go. It's Still Life by Sarah Woodman. Everything by Sarah Woodman is amazing. I have read every one of her books. I've adored them. The only other one that I have here to show you is Tin Man, because she's the kind of author that I love her books so much that I lend them to everyone and then they never find their way back to me. Rude, right? Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you about Still Life. So it begins in 1944 in Tuscany. We have an English soldier called Ulysses Temper. Fun fact, so this book came out last year at the same time as The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles, and that also had a character called Ulysses in it. So I love it when that synchronicity happens, but that is neither here nor there, going off on a tangent. Okay, so Ulysses Temper has been fighting in the war. He meets a woman who's an art historian who's much older than him, Evelyn Skinner. She is there to try and salvage some of the works of art that are being destroyed in the process of the war, and they meet and they become fast friends. And then Ulysses and Evelyn both head back to the UK, and Ulysses returns to this amazing ensemble cast of characters. He's living in this small town, and there are so many interesting characters surrounding him, one of which is an African grey parrot called Claude, and Claude has opinions, and Claude is hilarious, right? So this book is like a warm blanket wrapped around yourself on a cold night. It is just so uplifting. The themes explored are so powerful. Sarah Woodman herself is a queer writer, and so she explores queer themes in her books as well. And it's just such a diverse lot of characters, and it's a kind of book that when you're done reading it, you just want to clutch it to your chest and go, oh. And that's what I did. And I actually want to give it a bit of time so I can forget it and then begin rereading it again because it was that good. So start with that one if you haven't read any of hers, and then read all of Sarah Woodman's. Okay, my second chunkster of a book is from an author as well who needs no introduction, Barbara Kingsolver. I mean, she is a master at the top of her game. Now, you can see it's another chunkster of a book. So Demon Copperhead is kind of, I won't say it's a retelling of David Copperfield, but she has taken that book and transposed it to the modern day story. Now, David Copperfield was written by Dickens in, I think, the 1850s was when it was first started to be published in its serialized form. And this was a book that he wrote because he was so frustrated by his experience of institutional poverty as a child and how institutions let children down in so many different ways. And, you know, we're now in 2022 and not much has changed in that regard. And so Barbara Kingsolver has taken this character, Demon Copperhead, instead of David Copperfield, and he is orphaned. He also ends up in these institutions. He is let down hugely. Now, this sounds morbidly depressing, and it should be, but somehow in the hands of a master like Barbara Kingsolver, this is not a morbid book. This is a triumphant book. It is a coming of age, and it is hugely, hugely funny as well, which is not what I was expecting along the way. The voice is just so singular. It takes place in Appalachia, and there's so many writers who write about Appalachia, but who get it wrong because they use all these terrible stereotypes of what people in Appalachia are like. And these are things that she actually explores in this book, how people there have been so let down, how they've been the butt of everyone's jokes. And it looks at the onset of the opioid crisis. And why it began somewhere like Appalachia. So please, please, please read this book. It taught me so much. I don't know about you, but when I am hugely entertained and I get to learn things at the same time, and it sparks these thoughts and it really, really makes me think and it challenges me intellectually, then that for me is an amazing book. And it hits that sweet spot. So, you know, both of these books, Still Life and Demon Copperhead, are very literary novels. But here's the thing, literary novels tend to focus more on character journeys, character development. It explores what it means to be human in the world, which often means that they don't have very compelling plots. Now, both of these authors have hit the sweet spot with these novels, because what we have is page-turning plots where we're like, oh, I need to find out what's happening next. I need to see what's going to happen. While you also want to stop with the highlighter and keep highlighting the beautiful sentences, the sumptuous language, the amazing metaphors and similes. So that is why these two books for me really, really hit the sweet spot. So whether you're more of a literary fiction reader or whether you're more commercial fiction, you know, it'll hit both of those spots for you. Right, so that's that one. And then another book, remember I said I was going to tell you about other ones in between, that kind of does that is, that's not the book I'm recommending, I'm just throwing it in here, is Olympus, Texas by Stacey Swann. You know, in the same way that Demon Copperhead is based on David Copperfield. And remember, you don't have to have read David Copperfield to love that book. So don't be like, oh, Bianca, I got to go back now and read the classics. No, you don't. And it's the same as with this book. You don't need to know about the Olympians in terms of the Greek gods that this is based on, which it is based on. You just read this about drama, family drama and dysfunction, and it's amazing. So I'm slipping that one in as well. Okay, then my third book, I can't hold it up because I listened to it on audiobook, which was wonderful to do because the narrator was amazing, was Someday Maybe. Here we go. Oh, I can't show it to you, won't show on the screen, but Someday Maybe by Onye Nwabeneli. Now, this story is a British Nigerian character who we see from the beginning wakes up after her husband has died by suicide. And it is, you know, what happens after that in the days, the hours, the weeks that follow that. as she comes to terms with her grief, as she questions everything, because she thought they were so happy. She thought they were so happy together. And then this happened, and it was, hugely devastating for her, terrible impact on her and the family, the ripple effect that these kinds of things have. And again, it sounds like it should be hugely depressing, but it isn't. There are some really funny moments in it. The social commentaries on point. This character's insight is amazing. And, if you want to listen to it on audiobook, the person who narrates it does an excellent job of doing the Nigerian sort of accents of the extended family in terms of the mother, etc. And, it helps you learn how to pronounce these words as well. So when I read them, I'm never quite sure how I should be pronouncing them. And when you hear a Nigerian narrator, read it to you, it is absolutely amazing because it feels so much more immersive and you feel so much more a part of the story. So those are my 3 official books that I am busy recommending. Another one that I'm going to throw in as well is Miriam Taves's Fight Night. Now, Miriam Taves is the master of writing loud, quiet stories. So quiet stories are ones that we consider very literary, that don't have much plot, that are more character driven and explore character. This book, you'll see, not much happens, but the voice of the character is so singular. It is so delightful. It is just so wonderful that you forget there isn't a plot. So a very loud, quiet novel. Okay, so I have given way more suggestions than I was supposed to, but I do like to slip them in there. Please do not be intimidated by big books. Go out, read these books. You won't want them to end. And I promise you, they will change you as you read them, because this is why we read. We read because we are empathetic, because we want to experience all these lives that we won't get to experience ourselves. And so we walk a mile in these characters' shoes, and longer books mean longer miles. So enjoy.
That was awesome. Thank you very much, Bianca, Marais. And if you haven't read The Witches of Moonshine Manor, please do. And you'll all get to meet Bianca later this month, I think. And now we're going to get to book recommendations from the staff here at HTP Books. I'm going to start with the category of trending books. And these are all books that are currently making waves. You might see one here someday maybe that Bianca just talked about. But I wanted to start with Before the Coffee Gets Cold, the series. There's the 3 books you see here, because it is truly a publishing success story. So I'm going to go back to 2014, when there was a play, a theater production in Japan, about a cafe called Funicula. And the play was about this special cafe, because in this cafe, there's a certain table where if you sit in it at a certain moment of the day, you will be transported back to whatever moment in your life that you choose to revisit. And you can stay in that moment for a little bit until your coffee gets cold. And so the play in Japan followed the stories of 4 customers at this cafe. And some customers wanted to revisit old boyfriends. Some wanted to revisit moments with family members who they were now estranged from or who had passed on. And it was a wonderful concept for a play, because it makes you think, like, what moment in your own life would you choose to revisit if you had the chance to? So the play was a hit. It was adapted into a novel afterwards in Japan, and the novel was a huge hit. In Japan, it sold 1 million copies. And then a movie in the Japanese language followed after that. So then fast forward to 2020, and one of our imprints, Hanover Square Press, acquired the English language rights to this novel. And what that means is we hired a translator to deliver the English version of this novel. And Before the Coffee Gets Cold was published in North America. And it did okay. And in fact, there were sequels that followed. There was Tales from the Cafe. And then just this past month, we published Before Your Memory Fades. And in each of these sequels, we follow more customers to this cafe. And then we were excited because the Jackal Group, which is a production company, they acquired the rights to do a television series in English based on Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and it's going to be on Netflix in the future. But still, that's not the best part of this story. The best part is, earlier this year, a popular TikTok influencer created this video of herself holding up the book and crying. She was in tears. She said this book is not sad, and yet she can't stop crying because it just made her feel so much. And as you know, with TikTok, the video went viral, and soon other readers went on TikTok to post their reactions to this book. And slowly, this TikTok momentum and this hamster wheel of success just kept going, and the book started to sell again almost 3 years after this first book was released. And as you know, books that are 3 years old, they don't tend to hit the bestseller lists again unless there's some major news. And in this case, TikTok was the major news. So since the summertime, Before the Coffee Gets Cold has been on the National Bookstore bestseller list in the United States for 4 months now and counting. So it's been an incredible ride. Before the Coffee Gets Cold is now one of our best-selling books of the year, despite the fact that we haven't actually promoted it any differently. So for the book lovers on your list, I would give them the series and tell them that the story of how this little book that came from a play in Japan has now become a phenomenon in North America. And then I'll just speak briefly about the other two. Someday Maybe by Oni Nwabineli. Bianca Marais just talked to us about it. I did want to give you a little bit more background to this novel. I think it's worth telling that in the summer of 2020, our publishing team put out a call for unagented manuscripts by Black authors. And it was our way to knock down some barriers in the publishing world. And you know, some of you will know this, but it's very rare that we would publish an author that's not agented, that doesn't come with a literary agent. So for us to accept these unagented manuscripts was a great project of ours. Out of that call for unagented manuscripts, we got thousands of submissions. Out of all those submissions, the very first manuscript we chose to publish is Someday Maybe. So I won't say too much more because Bianca did talk about this book already, but I will say that Oni Nwabineli is this amazing person. She's a writer born in Nigeria, raised in Glasgow, and now lives in London. And she co-founded an organization called Surviving Out Loud that provides survivors of sexual assault with legal assistance, therapy, and relocation. So she's just this wonderful, wonderful person and an even more amazing writer. And I'm so happy to say that Good Morning America selected this book as their book club pick for this month. And honestly, I've yet to meet anybody who doesn't like this book after reading it. And finally, on this slide, I have Daughters of the New Year by E.M. Tran. And it's a novel about 5 generations of a Vietnamese family, specifically following the mother and the daughters of this family. It's very epic. You witness this family through the fall of Saigon, through 9/11, and then through Hurricane Katrina. And at the head of this family is the mother, a former beauty queen in Vietnam, who is now living in New Orleans. And she is obsessed with her daughter's fates and the need for her daughters to have a better life. So she looks to the Vietnamese zodiac sign to make decisions about the family because she believes that the zodiac has all the answers. So we follow her 3 daughters as well, a lawyer who is hiding her sexuality, another daughter who ends up on a reality TV show like The Bachelor, and then the 3rd daughter is a writer who tries to dig deep into her family's secrets. It's really gripping. It's about your family's expectations of you. It's about trying to find a new life in a new country, but it's also funny and joyful. And it's about how a family comes together, gets torn apart, and then comes back together again. And if you like books like The Vanishing Half or Transcendent Kingdom, or family dramas by Isabel Allende or Toni Morrison, you'll love this. The Daughters of the New Year just got a rave review in the New York Times and in People magazine, and it was just selected by Marie Claire for their Read with Marie Claire book club. So that's it from me. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Pamela Osti.
Hi, thanks so much, Randy. So my name is Pamela Osti, and I'm HTP's channel marketing manager. I work with Randy, and I get to present something for every book lover on your list, books about books. So excited to present these. So I'm going to start with The Messy Lives of Book People by Phaedra Patrick. If you're looking for a charming, whimsical read, this is the book for you. You may already know Phaedra as the author of the best-selling The Curious Charms of Arthur Pepper, The Library of Lost and Found, or Rise and Shine, Benedict Stone, which was made into a Hallmark film last year. The Messy Lives of Book People can, I think, be best described as Frederick Bachman meets the Midnight Library. It's a heartwarming charmer of a novel in which the house cleaner of a famous reclusive author must carry out her last unusual wish. Mother of two, Liv Green barely scrapes by as a maid to make ends meet, often finding escape in a good book while daydreaming of becoming a writer herself. So she can't believe her luck when she lands a job housekeeping for her personal hero and mega best-selling author, Essie Starling, a mysterious and intimidating recluse. The last thing Liv expects is to be the only person Essie talks to, leading to a tenuous friendship. But when Essie dies suddenly, a devastated Liv is astonished to learn of her last wish, for Liv to complete Essie's final novel. But to do so, Liv will have to step into Essie's shoes, and as Liv begins to write, she uncovers secrets from the past and a surprising connection between the two women, one that will change Liv's story forever. If someone on your list is a fan of Matt Haig, Frederick Bachman, I would even say, George or Gail Honeyman, this novel is definitely for them. It's a wonderful book club pick as it explores poignant questions about the road not taken, autonomy over your own life, and how it's never too late to rewrite your fate when you feel stuck. Reviewers love Phaedra Patrick. So many have praised her previous books for their uplifting nature and her writing as a balm for the soul. The Messy Lives of Book People is no exception. It's witty, delightful, charming, and with a perfect touch of mystery and a dash of whimsy. It's the kind of book you'll want to read in one sitting. And then next up, for fans of a literary mystery, so something a little different, The Stolen Book of Evelyn Aubrey by Serena Burdick is the perfect read. When Evelyn first married the famous novelist William Aubrey, she was dazzled by his brilliance. But their newlywed bliss is brief when William is gripped by writer's block, and he becomes jealous of Evelyn's writing talent. When he commits the ultimate betrayal, stealing a draft of her novel and passing it off as his own, Evelyn decides to write her way out of their unhappy marriage. Fast forward to 2006, when Evelyn's great-great-granddaughter Abigail discovers that Evelyn was the author Evelyn Aubrey, and it leads her on a journey to England in search for answers. There, she learns of Evelyn's shocking disappearance and how London society believed she was murdered. The Stolen Book of Evelyn Aubrey is a delicious page-turner. It's part coming of age, part literary mystery, part family saga, and just absolutely gorgeously written. Author Serena Burdick is also the author of The Girls with No Names, which was a huge commercial and critical success. Her novels feature women at the center of the story and an empowering feminist message. In her novels, she creates rich atmosphere and emotional character relationships, and her books are pure book club catnip. You'll absolutely love this one. The Stolen Book of Evelyn Aubrey is the perfect intersection of historical fiction, mystery, family drama, filled with secrets, jealousy, and passion. Authors have responded with effusive praise, with Gillian Cantor saying, "I devoured this book." And from Hazel Gaynor, "I stepped into the pages of Evelyn Aubrey's world and didn't want to leave." Serena Burdick, take a bow. Marvelous. I could not have said it better myself. And most exciting, I'll mention that the book was named a Barnes & Noble pick for November. So booksellers and readers everywhere are truly embracing The Stolen Book of Evelyn Aubrey. And then finally, this is for anyone who's passionate about their local indie bookstore. If you or a person on your list is somebody who loves passing book recommendations to their family and friends, the Book Haters Book Club by Gretchen Anthony is for you. It's a fun, feel-good read filled with humor, family hijinks, and actual reading lists. It's a celebration of found family and a love letter to the everyday heroes who run bookstores. All it takes is the right book to turn a book hater into a book lover. At least that was Eliot's belief when he started the Book Haters Book Club, a newsletter of reading recommendations for the non-reader. As the co-owner of Over the Rainbow Bookstore, his passion and gift was reading recommendations. Now, after his sudden death, his former partner in business, Irma, is reeling from grief and has agreed to sell Over the Rainbow to a giant developer who intends to build condos in its place. When Irma breaks the news to her daughters, Bree and Lainey, and Eliot's romantic partner, Tom, they are aghast. Surely she hasn't thought this through. But Irma is keeping her reasoning to herself and won't engage in any conversation about her decision. The Rainbow has been Bree and Lainey's haven since childhood, and Tom would do anything to preserve Eliot's bookseller legacy. Together, Tom, Bree, and Lainey conspire to save the store, even if it entails some snooping, gossip, and minor sabotage. The way the community comes together in this feel-good story, it'll remind you of, if you've ever watched Schitt's Creek or Ted Lasso. It's just that lovely sense of community filled with quirky characters. And the reading recommendations for book haters that are peppered throughout the novel will appeal to book lovers and haters and fans of books and bookshops. I think this novel is perfect for fans of the Little Paris Bookshop, the Last Chance Library, and the Reading List. Gretchen's book recommendations are gathered from booksellers, librarians, and book lovers. And at the back of the book, she includes a lovely shout out to all of them. She even name checks some of her favorite indie bookstores, which is such a lovely touch. Gretchen Rubin is also the author of Evergreen Tidings from the Baumgartners, which was a best books pick by Amazon, BookBub, and Pop Sugar, and the New York Post. And she also wrote The Kids Are Gonna Ask, which received an Alex Award from the American Library Association, which is a very prestigious award. The Book Haters Book Club has received rave reviews, including from Library Journal, who called it an exuberant love song to the power of books, bookstores, and the durable community that they create. Laugh out loud funny, this book will restore hope to all those fearful for the survival of bookstores and libraries. Thank you so much. And now back to Randy for nonfiction picks.
Thanks, Pam. You were great. And you're going to be hearing from me again. I'm filling in for my colleague, Dana Boyer, who was going to present this slide. But Dana had some emergency dental work done today. And unfortunately, her mouth is frozen, still frozen. So get better, Dana. I'm going to present the best books for the nonfiction lover on your gift list. And starting with The Daughter of Auschwitz by Tova Friedman. So we've talked about TikTok. When we talk about TikTok stars, an 84-year-old Holocaust survivor might not be who pops up into your mind first, but welcome to TikTok's one of TikTok's biggest stars. It's Tova Friedman. Tova is one of the youngest survivors of Auschwitz, and she was only 4 years old when she and her parents were sent to a Nazi labor camp. And she spent 6 months in Birkenau and witnessed atrocities that she could never forget. Actually, she's one of a handful of Jews to have entered a gas chamber and lived to tell the tale. In 1945, Tova and her mother hid amongst corpses and was able to escape that way. Miraculously, they were reunited with Tova's father, and together they lived in their hometown of Poland. As an adult, Tova has dedicated her life to campaigning against anti-Semitism. She travels widely to speak about her experiences to schools, churches, and synagogues. And then one day, her granddaughter opened a profile for Tova on TikTok. And since then, Tova has used TikTok to post videos about her experience in Auschwitz. Because of the platform, Tova receives hundreds of questions from children, and she responds to each of those questions via TikTok. She now has 478,000 followers on TikTok, which is incredible. The book is heartbreaking, gripping, and yet still hopeful. Any memoir reader or history book reader will absolutely love this story. On to Barkley by Timothy Bella, which is the perfect gift for basketball and NBA fans. And this is the full story of how Charles Barkley became the world-renowned athlete and star that we all know. Amazingly, there hasn't been a comprehensive bio of him yet. And the author is a Washington Post reporter, and he was the lead researcher on the best-selling Tiger Woods biography. For this book, the author conducted 372 interviews, everyone from Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal to Barkley's coaches, to Reverend Jesse Jackson and Billy Crystal, even his high school girlfriend. So if you have a sports lover on your list, this is the book to get. And finally, we have a book that's perfect for New Year, New You, and it's by the American rapper, songwriter, and entrepreneur, Rick Ross. I love him. If you have a music lover in your life, that person will know who Rick Ross is. All 10 of Rick's albums have landed in the top 10 of the Billboard 200, including 5 #1 debuts. He's received 4 Grammy Award nominations, and he works closely with Jay-Z, Diddy, Drake, DJ Khaled. But apart from his music, Rick has also built himself an empire. So he owns a successful record label, he owns several fast food chains, and he has his own line of grooming products for men. So in The Perfect Day to Boss Up, Rick Ross shares his secrets to success. And he says it doesn't matter what's going on, even the most dire situation is just another opportunity to boss up. So this is a self-help book for people who don't read self-help books. The book delivers advice through Rick's boss commandments, and it did so well for us. The book spent 2 months on the New York Times bestseller list last year. And in fact, to celebrate the fact that he landed on the New York Times list, Rick Ross got a tattoo of the New York Times logo on his head. That's dedication. I don't know if that's what I would do if I ever landed on the New York Times bestseller list, but more power to Rick, and it's a really great book. That's the nonfiction list, and now for that very special preview of Colleen Hoover's next book, I wanted to turn it over to my colleague, Amber Hostin.
Thanks, Randy. Hi, I'm Amber, and I'm the Assistant Marketing Manager for Graydon House Books and the HTP Backlist. I'm also a resident Coho fan, and I can't wait to give you all a bit of a sneak peek for an exciting book we have coming. We've talked about it already, but it's Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher's Never Never, and it's out at the end of February. You've likely heard of both Colleen and Taryn on their own. Colleen has been all over bestseller lists lately with her heart-wrenching reads. Her newest book, It Starts With Us, it released back in mid-October and has already sold over 1.3 million copies. Taryn isn't a stranger to bestseller lists either, and has 3 best-selling suspense novels, including The Wives, which we published on our Graydon House list. What you might not already know is that Colleen and Taryn happen to be best friends, or that they're notorious for pranking each other and sending creepy gifts, like the time Colleen put a picture of herself onto one of Taryn's self-published book covers, or when Taryn sent Colleen an antique doll that looked eerily like Colleen herself. Everybody thought it was haunted, and I kind of agreed with them. A few years ago, they decided to write together, and they ended up writing 3 serial novellas that came together into one full story. That story is Never Never. It's the perfect combination of their writing styles and brings together romance and suspense in an extremely intriguing way. Never Never follows teenage sweethearts, Charlie and Silas, whose memories have suddenly vanished. They can't remember who they are or what they mean to each other, but they do know that the only comfort they find is in each other. As they try to uncover what's happening to their memories, they begin to discover their history, truths about themselves, and the various secrets surrounding their lives. With some twists and turns, the stakes just keep getting higher, and Charlie and Silas will have to race against the clock to figure out how to fix what's gone wrong. I won't say much more because I think you'll want to find out the rest of the story yourselves, but Never Never is gloriously romantic, suspenseful, and once you start reading, you'll be gripped by Colleen and Taryn's fast-paced writing, and you won't want to put it down. Before now, Never Never was only available as an ebook or through print on demand, So we're extremely excited to be bringing it to readers on a much wider scale. Now everyone can have a beautiful copy on their shelf, and we happen to really love this cover. We've also added some super special bonus content that we think readers will love. To give you a super sneak peek, they have to do with tattoos and astrology. So if you've read the book, the tattoos specifically are going to be something I think you'll all be intrigued with. While Never Never won't be out in time to gift a physical copy for the holidays, we definitely recommend saving your gift cards for a copy for yourself, or suggesting it alongside gift cards for any readers in your life who love gripping romances with a bit of suspense, especially if they're already fans of Colleen and Taryn. You might even buy a copy for a friend in advance if you know they love them already. Personally, I've already ordered 3 copies, 1 for myself and then 2 for my friends who I know love them both already. I hope you all have the loveliest of holidays and that you find some fantastic books to curl up with this season. Back to you, Randy.
Thank you, Amber. And I don't know if you saw the chat box, but I think everyone's very excited about the new Colleen Hoover. I love that cover, by the way. So definitely pre-order that book, or as you say, use your gift cards in the new year to buy it. So that's almost all for the event, but I did want to say Erin and Valerie are going to email out a flyer that includes all of the books that we talked about tonight. So you can literally take this flyer or this list with you to your bookstore and get them all. And now I'm going to call on Valerie to choose one lucky winner tonight, because someone here in attendance is going to win 10 books that we recommended here today. So Valerie, I think you're going to use some sort of fancy random generator.
Oh, I've got it ready.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is fancy.
All right, clicking to win. Here we go.
I love it.
Joanne.
Woohoo!
Oh.
Joanne is our host from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Nice. Well, Joanne, we'll get your, I think I might even have your address somewhere, but we'll get
It's
your
possible.
address. And we'll send you 10 books from tonight. Thank you. And then I think we're gonna do a draw for the 1-year membership to the Gloss.
Yeah, I'm glad Joanne didn't win that one. Val, do you want to, and if you already have a membership, we can make it for the next year. And
Kenya.
that is not a host, so there we go. Kenya, congratulations. We'll be in touch. I better write this down. We'll be in touch to get you your membership. And if I don't know if you have one or not, but if you do, we will make sure that it starts after this one is out. Thanks to the authors and to Randy and to Amber and to Pamela and to everybody who joined us tonight. We just love doing these events.
Thank you so much. I hope you found the perfect book for your shopping list. Okay, take care, everyone. Have a good night, and thanks again, Susan.
Thanks, everyone.
And
Thanks,
to Susan, of
Randy.
course. Oh my
Amber.
goodness.
Okay. Good night.